And that's a hard thing to evaluate. But I'd also say there's not many people who even know what to do. You know, It's not like they're CEOs of businesses. A lot of times they're football coaches, with all due respect. They're not running large corporations.
Right.
You know, as Bill Parcells said, you know, they're PE coaches a lot of times that get elevated to, you know, coaching positions.
What if I told you the NFL never actually gave Shedeur Sanders a real shot? Not because he wasn't talented, not because he didn't put in the work, but because, from the very beginning, the system wasn't built for him to survive in. We're not just talking about being overlooked. This goes deeper than depth charts and practice reps. What if the coaches who are supposed to guide him didn't even know how? And what if the very people who signed him had no intention of seeing him succeed? When Tom Brady speaks up about broken systems in the league, people listen. But when he, Stephen A. Smith, and Louis Riddick all zero in on one player and all say the same thing, you know something's wrong behind the scenes. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is professional football politics at its finest. An unspoken hierarchy where certain players are handed the keys and others never even see the field.
You know, look, you got PFF grading you every week, like you were just referencing there before I came on. They're grading you, and now you go as a first-year quarterback, you barely know shit, and now everyone's telling you suck, and it takes a while to regain your confidence.
The operations aren't there. He's not the guy. Is that too soon?
Yeah, but I would argue this. You're assuming that everybody knows how to develop a quarterback. You're assuming that you're going into a program. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not, there's a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing when they're tasked with coaching a quarterback or calling an offense. So are you saying, I mean, just like we rank quarterbacks 1 to 32, do you rank offensive coordinators 1 to 32? Do you rank quarterback coaches 1 to 32? Well, what if you had the 32nd rank?
So why was Shedeur Sanders set up to fail before he ever had a chance to prove himself? Well, once you see what's really been going on behind closed doors, you'll realize this was never about performance. This was about power. And Shedeur? He just happened to be caught in the middle of it. In today's NFL, quarterbacks are judged faster than ever before. Every throw, every mistake, every decision. It's broken down, graded, and broadcasted within hours. Platforms like PFF assign weekly scores. Fans dissect game tape online. The media runs narratives by the minute. For a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, that spotlight isn't just bright, it's blinding. But here's the part nobody talks about. While quarterbacks are ranked and ridiculed for every snap they take, nobody's grading the coaches.
There's been 11 practices, if I remember correctly. He's been starting against he's been playing against the third unit. He's fourth on the depth chart. And then suddenly you throw him into the start lineup, and he hasn't had any reps with the first team at all.
That's exactly what Tom Brady pointed out in a recent interview, and he didn't sugarcoat it. Brady said what most athletes wish they could, that many of the people coaching quarterbacks in the NFL have no idea how to actually develop one. Think about that. You could be a rookie quarterback thrown into a complex system under relentless pressure, and the person calling your plays might not even know what they're doing. Yet when things go wrong, who gets blamed? The player, every time. Imagine ranking 32 quarterbacks each season, something fans do constantly, but not ranking the 32 offensive coordinators or QB coaches guiding them. No accountability, no visible checks, just assumptions that the system knows best. Brady's message was clear. Too many coaches are elevated into positions they aren't qualified for. This isn't just bad planning. This is how promising careers get derailed before they start.
And here's the other thing, number two. You have to have people who advocate for you when you are a lower round draft pick. We don't know who's advocating for him within the organization because we don't know who stood up for him and who really wanted to draft him.
And in Shedeur Sanders' case, that double standard might have cost him the chance to even get off the sideline. Because while the world was watching him, no one was watching the people pulling the strings. When Tom Brady talks, the football world listens. He's not just a 7-time champion, he's the gold standard. And when even he calls out NFL coaching standards, people start to look at things differently. In a candid conversation, Brady didn't just criticize a player or even a team. He took aim at the entire infrastructure behind quarterback development. His point? Simple. Just because someone is a coach doesn't mean they know how to coach a quarterback. And he wasn't dancing around it either. Brady exposed a brutal truth that some NFL coaches are barely more qualified than gym teachers when it comes to developing elite talent under center.
Understand what's going on here. That's why Haslam was in his car on a Friday talking about, I can't see it happening, because they weren't going to let it happen.
They're not CEOs, Brady said. They're PE teachers who got promoted. Harsh? Maybe. But when you look at how players like Shedeur Sanders are treated, it starts to make sense. Brady questioned whether these coaches ever gave Shedeur the tools to succeed. Did they work with him in a film room? Were they running the right offense for his skill set? Did they even give him real reps in practice? And if none of that happened, then why were these same coaches so quick to criticize him? Brady's comments cut right through the noise. Because this wasn't just about Shedeur. It was about a broken system where coaching competence gets hidden and players take all the hits. If the people responsible for developing QBs don't know what they're doing, and they're the ones making personnel decisions behind closed doors, how can any young quarterback hope to succeed? For Shedeur, it's becoming painfully obvious. He wasn't just fighting to win a job. He was fighting against the very people supposed to help him earn it. While Brady exposed the system's flaws, Stephen A. Smith ripped into it with no filter. He didn't tiptoe. He didn't hedge. He came right out and said it. They're setting Shedeur Sanders up to fail. At the time of his first preseason start, Shedeur hadn't had a single rep with the first team offense. Not one. For over 11 practices, he was stuck running plays with the third string. No chemistry with starters, no rhythm, no real preparation. And then suddenly, he's told he's starting the next game? Stephen A. didn't buy it for a second. He called it what it was, a setup. Because in the NFL, preparation is everything. Quarterbacks don't just walk onto the field and magically perform miracles. They need reps. They need rhythm. Thrown into a situation like that, Shedeur was expected to perform without ever being given the tools to succeed. Stephen A. asked the one question that matters. How do you evaluate a player you haven't prepared? It wasn't just incompetence, it felt calculated. Why promote him to the front of the line after failing to prepare him behind the scenes? As if the plan all along was to set him up, let him struggle, and then say, see, he's not ready. It's a classic move in sports politics. Limit opportunity, rush the moment, and use the poor performance as proof that you were right to doubt the player in the first place. But Stephen A. was there to call it out, loudly, publicly, because this wasn't just a coaching mistake, it was a strategy. While Stephen A. sounded the alarm, Louis Riddick came in and broke things down at a deeper level. And what he revealed made Shedeur's situation look even worse. Riddick, a former player and respected front office insider, didn't just focus on the lack of opportunity. He focused on the why behind it and exposed the bigger issue. According to Riddick, players drafted low, especially quarterbacks, rarely make it unless someone inside the organization is fighting for them. They need an advocate, a coach, a coordinator, a GM, someone who believes in them enough to push for real reps, chances, and development time. And for Shedeur, nobody knows who that person is. No one has publicly taken credit for signing him. No one has stepped forward to say, he's my guy, I wanted him here. That silence speaks volumes. Riddick made it clear. In the NFL, if you're not a top draft pick and you don't have someone in the building making noise for you, your chances of success drop fast. It's not just about performance, it's about politics. And Shedeur was already behind before he even stepped on the field. Worse, Riddick pointed out, Shedeur had been thrown into the spotlight without proper reps or preparation, meaning he'd have to be damn near perfect just to get noticed. And nobody, not even the greats, can survive under that kind of pressure without support. If there's no plan for your growth, no coach ready to bet on you, then you're just a name on a list waiting to be passed over. And for Shedeur Sanders, that's exactly what was happening, in plain sight. If there was ever any doubt that Shedeur Sanders was put in a no-win situation, Jimmy Haslam erased it in just one sentence. When pressed about Shedeur's signing, the Browns owner casually admitted he had no idea the team was even considering him. Let that sink in. One of the most powerful executives in the building didn't just pass on Shedeur. He didn't even know he was in the conversation. The decision was left entirely up to the coaching staff. The same staff that gave him no first-team reps, no meaningful playing time, and seemingly no interest in his development. It was a bombshell. How do you expect a young quarterback to succeed when the person at the top has zero investment in his future? And even worse, when no one is stepping up to claim responsibility for bringing him into the organization. Riddick and Stephen A. had already hinted at dysfunction behind the scenes, but Haslam's comments confirmed it. Not only was Shedeur rushed into a starting role, but the people pulling the strings weren't even aligned on why he was there in the first place. No game plan, no backing, no leadership. Just a quarterback tossed into one of the most demanding positions in sports, with a coaching staff that was either unprepared, uninterested, or both. And Haslam's passive response? It only added to the suspicion that Shedeur was set up to fail, not because of performance, but because no one wanted him to succeed. That wasn't just a red flag, that was a siren. And by this point, it was blaring for everyone to hear. By now, it was obvious Shedeur Sanders wasn't just the victim of bad luck or inexperience. He was caught in something deeper, something uglier. This wasn't just football. This was politics, dressed up in team colors. Stephen A. Smith laid it out clearly. Shedeur's career wasn't being mishandled. It was being intentionally blocked. In his words, you were never going to let it happen. Look at the pattern. No first-team snaps, no advocate inside the organization, no real explanation from ownership. And now, quiet attempts to brush him off and move on. It wasn't about whether Shedeur could perform. It was about certain people in power making sure he never got the chance to try. Because in the NFL, decisions don't just come from game film. They come from ego, hierarchies, and business politics. A rookie quarterback like Shedeur, he's easy to box out if he doesn't have leverage. And that's exactly what seemed to happen here. The system moved quietly and deliberately to keep him out of the conversation. Jimmy Haslam talking about Shedeur while driving in his car, brushing off the topic like it wasn't even serious? That wasn't casual. That was calculated indifference. When execs and coaches don't see value in a player, they don't need to publicly cut him. All they have to do is starve him of opportunity and let the narrative do the rest. And for someone like Shedeur, who's already fighting to prove he belongs, politics like that can kill a career before it even starts. At some point, you have to ask the uncomfortable question: is talent really enough? Because Shedeur Sanders isn't some random player off the street. He's a proven competitor with the tools, the pedigree, and the mental toughness to succeed. But in the NFL, talent doesn't always win, especially when the system isn't built to let you. What we're seeing isn't unique to Shedeur. This is the same pattern that's affected countless young players before him. Guys who were good enough, smart enough, ready enough, but were buried under the noise of bad coaching, front office politics, and play-it-safe mentalities. And here's the truth. The difference between a backup and a breakout star, it's not just skill. It's support. It's coaching that believes in you. It's reps with the first team. It's mistakes you're allowed to learn from, not mistakes used to label you. Shedeur never got that. And when players like him don't have advocates, people in the building fighting for their growth, they become easy targets for blame and backlash. You can't judge a player's performance if the environment is designed for them to fail. You can't talk about potential without talking about opportunity. So when fans start saying he didn't prove anything, the real question should be, when was he ever given the chance? And maybe that's the most broken part of all. Because in today's NFL, it's rarely just about what a player can do. It's about whether decision makers will ever let them do it. And for Shedeur Sanders, that answer is still painfully unclear. Everything we've broken down, from the silence inside the organization, to the lack of reps, to the dismissive comments from ownership, points to one hard truth. Shedeur Sanders was never given a fair chance. Not because he lacked the skills, not because he couldn't handle the pressure, but because the system around him, the one that's supposed to build quarterbacks, was either asleep at the wheel or actively working against him. Let's be real. When people like Tom Brady, Stephen A. Smith, and Louis Riddick all speak out publicly, saying the same thing, calling out coaching, calling out ownership, calling out the infrastructure itself, it means this isn't just a player problem. It's an organizational failure. And Shedeur's case is just one example. How many other talented athletes are being boxed out before they even get their shot? How many careers are quietly derailed, not by performance, but by politics? If teams are serious about developing young talent, especially quarterbacks, they need to answer for this, because it's not enough to draft a player or sign a name. There needs to be a plan, a commitment, a champion behind the scenes. Otherwise, all you're doing is setting them up as scapegoats. And that's what happened here.